good. Sounds like a good drum today. And this is the teZa
It's
podcast.
kind of dry. It's not too wet today.
Oh.
Not too humid.
Do you think the drum reflects where our consciousness is?
No,
No?
but I think it reflects the humidity that's in the air.
But I think the rhythm that we tap out, or you tap out, because you're the drummer boy most of the time, I think it definitely reflects where our mood is at, how busy we are,
Well, I'm sure
what's
it
going
does.
on,
Every time you
how
play.
relaxed we are.
Sure.
Yeah, that's got, and so that's what we're talking about today. Like, it's so busy. Life has become so busy for everybody. And I myself want to keep my life as unbusy as possible. I mean, to me, busy does not equal success in life. To me, a successful life is to be really in tune with the universe and the divine aspect in my spiritual life. That's a successful life for me. So when I find myself getting really busy, I say, okay, slow down. And I have this new thing where, because I'm working on a book project and I really need as much time as possible to keep my thoughts together, I only schedule one other thing a day with other people, social things. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard. It's really hard because, especially
There's a lot of stuff coming at us all the time.
All the time. People want to do this. We have doctor's appointments. We have book
Well, everybody
clubs,
feels it.
The tennis games, blah, 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 blah.
Everybody feels it's partly our society in the United States, and it's partly our society on the East Coast of the United States. And I think it's a little different out west. But it's probably true in every society. It's probably a function of individuals who can be, who can put things in the proper balance and just not get overwhelmed. And if one thinks, well, we get swarmed up in this country by the news and the media and all the little things in the phone. I mean, I myself get addicted to first thing you do is you go on and look at your messages, and the next thing you know, you're plugged into somebody else's thinking and answering questions and making up your own questions, and pretty soon we're on the roll.
Okay, but that's what you do. That's what you choose to do. But I start my day with an attunement with the universe. And it's not a formal meditation, but I definitely have trained myself to go into that realm because otherwise I get crazy. So you are like a lot of other people who choose to look at their phone right away, but I choose not to. I choose to do an attunement.
Well, I usually have a meditation earlier, but I was talking with Steve, and he had a great way of looking at it. I thought it was real simple. No,
our friend Bird.
Steve of Leanne and Steve.
Oh, another
He's a meditative
Steve. We
guy.
know about 4 Steves.
He meditates every day. Mm-hmm. And so he says, and he does it just as a matter of course. He talks about it very openly, no problem. And it's just part of his life. And he says, well, I says, oh, that's interesting. I says, you're able to do it every day, because I try to do it every day, but some days I get busy and I don't
see there?
do my stuff.
That's why we're talking about busy.
And so he says, oh no, every day I have my meditation, and I always say, well, God, what have you got for me today?
Yeah.
And I thought, that's a great way of looking at it. He plugs in, has a conversation with God, and asks God, what's on for today?
And I do the same thing.
So he checks in,
I ask
good way
to be I ask to be useful. I ask to be guided, but I also have made it a habit. It's like brushing my teeth, or going to the bathroom, or having nourishment. There's no question about, do I do this? Because if I don't, I know myself, I just get swept away, and like the leaf in the wind. And I just get blown around by events and the busyness of life. And so I think it's a matter of commitment. You make a commitment, or call it a discipline. Or
it's a frame of mind for sure. There's no question. And the more primitive, I don't know about if the more primitive people, because I'm not a primitive person, so I don't know what they're doing or how they're thinking. But my guess is that the the people that are living closer to the earth have got more of an earth rhythm in their life. And I know when I was working, there was always huge amounts of sales stuff going on. So there's always attention to detail of a bunch of complicated different things.
You're talking about work. When you were a working person, because you're in retirement now.
I am, but most of the people that are listening to this are working people. So
Well,
they're
we don't
all
know.
still
We don't
working.
know. No.
Well, maybe they.
No. People of all sorts are listening to spiritual podcasts. I mean, you can't say that.
But if you're a
everybody's
working
like
person,
us.
which most people you have to be for many years of your life. So the question is, of course, it's easier to be more relaxed and less busy when you're retired because you don't have a job. But if you've got a job, then you've.
Well, let's just talk about people. Whether you mentioned primitive people. Now, I have lived with primitive people because I lived in the West Indies for a decade before internet, before CNN. And I know that when people wake up in the morning who are not plugged into the internet and plugged into phones, they just get up and they like have a cup of coffee and they feed their chickens and they, water their goat and they get the fire going because a lot of primitive people don't even have electricity, and it's very quiet.
Do you find them more content?
Yeah, I loved it. But primitive is not so easy to find these days. And that's why we live with no microwave and a lot of the lesser luxuries of life that a lot of modern people do, because I like to be primitive.
Yeah, well, I remember the first time that happened to me.
As much as I can.
I went and took a job in the jungle, and I in the Amazon jungle, working with these people. And there was nothing to do. There was no radio even. There was nothing except just the world and our jobs. Right. And there was a lot of sitting around in the hammock. And I can remember when I first started doing that, I had a guitar, so I would play. But I got where I could, at the beginning, I couldn't sit still for 2 minutes. Or 5-10 minutes, maybe 10-15 minutes.
It was like a meditation for you.
But by the time I got out of there, after 3 months, I could sit for 2 or 3 hours just quietly. And I remember coming back to the United States, and I just got in. It was like a culture shock. It was like nuts and crazy, and it really gave me a really good picture of just how nutty it is here and how we're involved in all this busyness, and it's definitely not conducive to a calm life. And I think at the end of the day, the calmer you can be and the more patient I can be and the more calm, the better life is. And I think you can be calm in the midst of a lot of stuff going on, but it's in my frame of mind. So it's all in the frame of mind. And if one considers the thing we were studying about the other day,
neuroplasticity, when changing the way we think.
One of the things we were talking about the other day in our little group was, it came to my attention.
I was talking about our podcast.
Somebody made the comment that the entire universe is in every single atom. If you look out into the cosmos, into the sky at night, the universe is out there. And it's out there raging around with billions of stars. But every atom is the same. So every tiny little piece of who we are is that. And so there is this giganticness of things. And we get caught up in our minutia and the politics and the day-to-day stuff and the people and the personality. Let me just finish this. And we forget that. So if I can remember, and if we can remember how big things are and how giant everything is and how small we are, I think that it is a big step towards becoming calm. Because then then you're just a small part of everything, and nothing's all this stuff that we think is important isn't really that important. It's important, but it's not that important. Not like we put it on, like I put it on.
So
Okay.
what I wanted to say was, I let you finish your thought. If it is true that every single cell of our body even is the microcosm of this huge, gigantic existence called the macrocosm, what a delight.
Yes.
What an interesting thing to explore in a method called quietness, meditation, reflection, self-discovery, self-awareness. It's like you're looking at the best movie, the best entertainment in the world when you reflect upon your own consciousness, being aware of your awareness. I mean, it's really magnificent. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so I encourage anybody who's interested in that, just to take some lessons. There's so many people who teach it and who aid it. I myself have mind stillers on my YouTube, mind stilling techniques.
But how do you do that if you're working your butt off and you're going like a 4-alarm fire and you got 100 things coming at you?
Right.
How do you become?
Okay, so our last podcast was about the neuroscience catching up with spirituality in this modern day. There's many books about how to change your mind. It's called neuroplasticity. And in this world today that is so busy, many people are choosing to explore how to change from that frantic anxiety, fear-driven, adrenaline-pushing state of mind, which this modern world kind of just naturally has produced because of constant production, constant this, constant that, constant impulse. So if one gets to a place and says, wow, I'm really sick and tired of always being anxious and always feeling upset or wanting to control everything, it has to go my way. Well, then they're ready to do a change. And first, they have the awareness that they need to change.
That's the first thing.
That's the very first thing.
You don't have that, you can't get anywhere. First thing you got to do is be aware
Absolutely.
that you're crazy.
Or
that it's
is
crazy.
scared or suicidal or whatever. A lot of people go to extremes before they realize that they can do something about it. So yes, have the awareness that you're uncomfortable and that even if you've been working on getting better, you still have a little bit of exploration to go, because happiness, fulfillment is a natural state of consciousness. It is the way that we came into this world when we were born. We did not come in anxious and scared, right? We didn't. Our consciousness was free. Our feelings had not yet gotten, pounced on by life.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but it might be true. But I noticed my little daughter she came in with a lot of anxiety, and I think she just came in from the other side.
Well, of course, we all come in with something
to deal with in this lifetime, but
yes, of course, we all come in with something, but we have the power to reverse it. It is not going to control our lives if we have the awareness that once we realize, oh, I have anxiety, oh, I have fear. In my case, it's always been insecurity. I have been working on that, and it's gotten a lot better. But without the awareness, you're a complete victim to this emotion, whether you come into this world with it or it's a result of bad parenting or too much, war.
And when we get old enough, then we have free will, and if we have free will, we can choose how we think. And if we can choose how we think, then it seems to me that one of the main things in all this is not taking ourselves so seriously. Part of the anxiety, or a lot of the anxiety, is that we're so taking ourselves so serious, and that everything is so all about us. And it's easy to say, and like, for instance, that movie we saw the other night about Bruce Springsteen. I'm not talking about Bruce Springsteen. I'm talking about the guy that was in a situation where his people had been alcoholic, and they had driven him, and then given him a lot of anxiety. And the movie was really about him trying to get away from being so anxious and have a happy life. Well, he was extremely successful outwardly. None of us knew that until we saw the movie. But it's a perfect example of somebody getting stuck in taking themselves so seriously that they just can't get away from it. And that was what I took from the movie, was there's an example of a guy or a person or me or anybody else that we see out here that goes to shrinks and stuff, myself included, that if we just didn't take ourselves so seriously, we could have a lot more peace, a lot more, and just not have it let it overwhelm us. And so that's a choice. That's a specific choice. We can choose every day, anytime, how we're going to accept this place that we're in. Like even if we're raising our kids and they're racing around the house, and we want to love our kids and have our loving time with our kids and our peaceful quiet and teach them peaceful quiet. But if we buy into the madness, it just becomes madness. And this is something that I and all of us need to recognize first and then take some action, because we can definitely have calm and quiet in the storm, in the maelstrom. We can choose how to. Okay,
so give us some tools. What are some tools that if we have the awareness that we need to make a change, and things keep happening over and over, so we've come to the stage of accepting that we need to make a change, because usually just an awareness is not enough, and we're desperate, and now we are ready for this third step after awareness and then acceptance. We're ready to take some action. So besides going to a shrink, we can learn to meditate. We can learn to tune into our breath.
Breathing is the first thing. You just breathe, and that's yogic. That's from you. And I remember I was running around having a problem with something, and I was talking, and I was with D Israel, and she's like this wise 100-year-old lady, and I was running around, and she looked at me. She said, "Carter, just relax."
Just relax.
I said, "Well,
take a breath."
It's like the Italian. My dad used to tell the story about, "Don't worry. How do you don't worry? What do you mean don't worry? How do you don't worry?" So kind of funny. But one of his friends, but they were laughing about it. But she would say it's the same thing with her. She said, "Just stop and breathe. Just take a breath." And I can promise that's a gigantic. If I can just stop and breathe.
Definitely ADD.
That's a big deal.
You go into this spiral. And so people who have that tendency to go into a spiral, once they start thinking, oh God, there's a lot to worry about, life is really difficult, instead of just stopping, like Dee said, because of the way your brain is wired, you go into the spiral. So you're a perfect example of, if you wanted to change, if you wanted to not go into these spirals, what would you do?
Take a breath and think about the cosmos for a second, and stop taking myself so seriously. Just stop. And the minute I recognize that I'm getting crazy, I need to just stop and take one breath. It takes 10 seconds.
Is that working for you?
Yeah.
And do you think you're getting more peaceful?
I think I'm getting a lot more peaceful in the last couple years. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good these days. Most of the people that are my age that I know are feeling pretty good. I think it just has to do with you've been around enough blocks. You get smarter when you get old, and you learn how to be a little calmer.
Of course, let's hope so.
But I can remember being just nuts most of my youthful life, running around. I got a lot done. I did pretty good in some areas, and I, and through it all. And
you have the double whammy of having a lot of Gemini. You have many, many different aspects to your perception of life. So,
but if you're not happy, then that's a clue too. That's a real awareness clue, because we should all be at peace. and happy with life. And if we're in tune with God and God is with us, even though we've got big problems and we may be on the verge of dying, we can be in tune and have a contentment and an inherent contentment. And I think it's a function of just not taking ourselves so friggin' serious and worrying about stuff. I mean, we're going to be dead soon.
I think it's a lot to do with remembering. Just remembering
Slow down.
that we have choices, remembering that we are more than this body.
Yes.
And we are much more than the spiraling worry and fear. And everything begins with this wonderful organ called the brain, which is the physical organ, but I like to think of it also as the metaphysical organ, which is called the mind. Our mind has such power. Our mind can actually get outside of who we are and what we are and be the witness and say, oh, look at me. I'm going into a spiral. I'm going into this deep pit of whatever, fear, depression, self-pity. I used to be in the pity pot so much in the early days of my sobriety, and I was so grateful when I realized that I could recognize what that first little sniff of being in the pity pot. I discovered techniques, affirmations, visualizations, all that stuff that adds up to what's called the neuroplasticity of changing the way our brain functions. So awareness is totally where it starts. And then
you have a choice.
And then you have choices, what to do about it.
And if you're feeling shitty, you're choosing to feel shitty. Because you don't have to feel shitty unless you choose it and allow it. You're allowing it to happen to you. Yeah. It's just like you're allowing people to push you around. Mm-hmm. You don't have to let people push you around. You can choose to not let people push you around. And all you got to do is make the choice. Yeah. And that's what the world is. It's about free will. That's what, when you were born, when I was born, everybody, even behind the communist curtain, the iron curtain, everywhere on earth, if you're in jail, if you're tied up, you have a choice of how you want to think about it. And your mind, my mind, is the one that builds my outside experience. And if I want to feel shitty and be upset and wringing my hands, I'm choosing that. Now, not saying we don't have influences and we have stuff we somehow have to work, but I can choose to work on it, for instance. Choose to recognize it and work on it.
Mind is the builder.
Mind is definitely the builder.
Mind is the builder. It's like this, it's this gift. It's this magical key to exploring the positive in life.
And then the physical is a result. So if you choose to be calm, then the result will be you will feel calm in your body. And if you don't choose, and you let your mind run crazy and be unruly, which all of us start with an pretty unruly mind, most everybody, and we have to learn to get that unruly mind under control. It's a human condition. But if you just let it be unruly, that's what's building, and your body's going to be unruly. You're going to be out of control.
Right.
And so it's just about choice.
And awareness. It starts with awareness, and then, yes, you go through this period where you can't deny it. Oh, it's not just a bad day. It's happening over and over, and that's the acceptance part. People get stuck in there sometimes. But once you have those two things, the awareness, and you are accepting the fact that something needs to change, then, and only then, you take the action.
Yeah, and you can just be as simple as taking one breath. Just stop. Yeah. If you're feeling really shitty, just stop and go.
Or exploring, go and Google or ask your AI, how do I practice meditation? How do I practice mindfulness? How do I get into following my breath? There's so much available.
But if you take a breath, then that can remind you that you're small, that all your stuff is only one tiny thing in the gigantic scheme of things. That immediately should calm you
So let's do it.
and calm me.
Let's do it. Even if it's one breath, we
Okay.
can change our thinking, and we can change the vibration of our energy, of our little universe in all these cells.
Because
so let's just
the
take
physical manifestation is a lot of it's in feeling. How do you feel?
We're going to take a breath now,
So
Carter.
okay,
We're going to stop
I'm
talking.
ready.
And we're going to take one nice breath, and then we're going to say, keep it up. Okay? So even if it's just one time, fully, consciously breathe in through your nose. And release it. And just feel that wonderful relaxation of one breath. We'll see you next time, my friends. Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay. Is that
Bye-bye.
it? See you later.
That's all you got to do. Bye-bye.
Okay, see you later.